beautiful means to be yourself. You don't need to be accepted by others. You need to accept yourself. When you are born a lotus flower, be a beautiful lotus flower. Don't try to be a magnolia flower. If you crave acceptance and recognition and try to change yourself to fit what other people want you to be, you will suffer all your life. True happiness and true power lie in understanding yourself, accepting yourself, having confidence in yourself, said the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. The lotus flower essence allows us to learn from the lotus flower how to be ourselves without comparing ourselves, without striving for recognition, but simply accepting ourselves as we are. In the first video of the Lotus series, we tried to take a brief look at the lotus from all sides, which could never be comprehensive in the short amount of time available. We have looked at the spiritual, botanical and healing aspects of the lotus, as well as its role as food and in cosmetics. All aspects together are expressed in the essence of the plant, meaning also in its flower essence. And this is what the current video is about. There are a number of different lotus essences, but it seems to be a good idea to start with one in particular, because the germ is the beginning. The shell of the lotus seed is very hard. It takes tremendous strength to open it from the inside. This gives the seed centuries of viability. No pest, fungus or bacterium can penetrate its shell. Only the very strongest manage to break it open. If you want to grow lotus flowers yourself, it is recommended that you saw the piece of the shell like a lid, without damaging the dormant germ, of course. Or you can tap the seed with a hammer until the shell bursts open and makes the seedlings work easier. Caution is advised in any case. As with many aspects of the lotus flower, there are striking contrasts here too. The hardness and the vulnerability. It takes a lot of strength to open the shell, but at the same time, so much caution and sensitivity are required to avoid causing damage. Lotus germ gives you courage. However stuck or hardened you may be, the mixture of coarseness and gentleness helps you to open up. Of course, you can stay in your shell your whole life if you want to. It's definitely safe in there, just perhaps a little boring in the long run. Maybe that's what you want, but some people only do it because they don't know the outside and are afraid of it. Lotus germ is for those who feel lost between hardness and gentleness, who are afraid to change something because they don't know what the consequences of change will be. Not knowing the longing can also be because you don't know anything to long for. This world is small and dark and walled off. The essence lets you reflect on yourself. Learn to recognize and explore your own possibilities and find the courage to face the unknown and the strength to assert yourself. Lotus germ is certainly well suited for every new beginning when dissatisfaction with the present meets fear of the future and leaves you motionless, not inwardly still and at peace, because this state can only occur when you are ready to strive for it. As long as you feel constricted and yet don't dare to liberate yourself, it probably won't work. Overcoming inner contradiction, taking action and swallowing your pride, that's what the lotus seed is all about. The healing power is within you, even if you don't know or can't use it. Karen Horney quotes a client who, unaware of the energy of this water plant, said, "Although I was helplessly at the mercy of this atmosphere, I should have emerged from it like a water lily from a swamp." The water lily is our native relative of the lotus flower and has similar properties. What both water lilies and lotus flowers have in common is that they make accessible to us what we sometimes lack access to. Some people don't even realize that they have this power to grow from the swamp, which is inherent in all lotus flowers. Once the sprout has fought its way through the water, opened its leaves and finally its flowers, a certain variety of coloring becomes apparent. Different colors of the lotus flower have different meanings. The white lotus stands for purity and enlightenment, the red for love and compassion, the blue for wisdom and truth, and the pink for Buddha nature itself. In art, Buddha is often depicted sitting or standing on a lotus flower to emphasize spiritual purity and enlightenment. Illustrations always show Buddha with a pink lotus flower in bloom, and this is the first flower essence we want to look at after the germ essence. No yang without yin, no morning without evening, and no lotus without mud. Striving for the higher while disregarding the lower can never lead to enlightenment. Those who nevertheless believe that they can achieve a kind of instant enlightenment with the help of this flower will be disappointed. Indeed, they will have to be, because without the small things there is no abundance. It is no wonder that spiritually oriented people, regardless of their faith, often turn to the less fortunate to support them. The book of Luke in the Bible tells how Jesus heals 10 lepers. At that time, lepers had a very low social status. They were considered unclean and were excluded from the community. They had to live unprotected outside the city walls and were avoided by healthy people to prevent possible infection. Lepers were socially isolated and stigmatized. Their illness was seen as a punishment from God, and they had hardly any rights or support in society. The fact that Jesus touched lepers of all people shows how he dealt with illness and social marginalization. He turned to the supposedly lowly. Without its roots in the dirt, the lotus blossom will never be able to strive towards the light. It grows through water, which is associated with the realm of emotions. In Greek mythology, Poseidon, the god of the sea, is also the lord of emotions, which can cloud your view of what is really going on. If you let the water clear the situation and calm your thoughts and feelings, you can recognize what has always been in front of your eyes. You just couldn't see it. The essence of the lotus is neither the mud nor its magnificent blossom, but the interaction of the two. Being able to observe without judgment can teach this essence. For thousands of years, meditators have been practicing to achieve the state of inner stillness in which knowledge and wisdom can be found. Lotus serves to free the mind and open up to unconditional love. Feelings and thoughts can be signposts, but they can also obscure the view of what you are really looking for. The true path can only be found with the whole being, with the material and the immaterial, the hidden and the obvious, the pure and the impure. Lotus helps you to realize that you are part of the whole and to develop respect and love for everything that exists. Wisdom is love. Love is wisdom. The white lotus represents this unity. The union of all colors into white stands for the unity of body, mind and soul and brings peace and tranquility to all levels of consciousness. This lotus variety brings a certain lightness of being, takes burdens, real or perceived, off one's shoulders and reduces inner tension, a key prerequisite for pausing and calming down. The barriers between the levels of perception dissolve. The essence of the White Lotus allows you to dive into the deepest depths of yourself. You can experience yourself in a place where you are inaccessible to noise, vibration, and illusion. Inner peace serves to purify yourself and free yourself from all distractions. You find out who you are and where your journey is taking you. Contradictory experiences, views, and influences are brought together into a meaningful whole and purified in your own center. The inner commentator on everything you experience is allowed to calm down and remain silent. You stop judging yourself and thus clear the way for non-judgment towards everyone and everything. The storms of life remain annoying, but they are only storms, not life. Those who seek peace and tranquility, who long for insight and knowledge, and really want to experience how love works when it goes hand in hand with wisdom, are well advised to use the essence of the White Lotus. The expectation of an instant breakthrough to wisdom is also just wishful thinking, and you can let go of that too. From the new spiritual perspective, you can be mild and forgiving. Yes, you make mistakes, and yes, sometimes you harm yourself or others. You bite down and get lost, but from a higher perspective, detached from the illusions of the ego, you recognize connections and patterns. And when I lost my way, I learned a lot about myself and the world. This essence is for contemplation and meditation. It helps you not to evade challenges of any kind, but to face them. Serenity and non-judgment in life in the now are the goals that White Lotus helps to achieve. The archetypal flower essences have taught us that women's plants bloom red and men's yellow, like the pomegranate and the sunflower. This principle is also reflected in the different colored lotus flowers. However, it should not be taken as an iron law that the yellow lotus is exclusively for men and the red one for women. Not at all. It only gives us clues for the association of the corresponding essences. For example, if someone is looking for an assignment on the chakras, it's quite simple. The red lotus is for the base chakra and the yellow one is for the solar plexus chakra. The yellow lotus, which is sometimes also referred to as the golden lotus, is native to South and East Asia. The yellow lotus flower is associated with compassion, knowledge, wisdom and beauty. In Hinduism, it symbolizes rebirth and reincarnation, purity and enlightenment. In some spiritual teachings, the yellow lotus is also associated with spiritual growth, self-improvement and the pursuit of higher consciousness. From India comes the story that golden nectar fell from heaven to earth where it became a flower. In Hinduism, the yellow lotus is associated with Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge and the arts. Some people attribute magical powers to the plant, which can bring luck and prosperity. In China, it represents leadership, prosperity and wealth. No wonder the imperial family adopted the plant and wore yellow robes when its members appeared before the people. For us essence users, however, the most important qualities are love, devotion and peace. The golden lotus symbolizes the beauty of the soul. The essence creates inner peace and patience. It calms us down when we tend to force things and teaches us that it is better to act wisely than quickly. It allows us to first explore what is the right thing to do and then put it into practice. In doing so, it gives us a sunny disposition and even makes us appear cheerful. But behind this lies a basis of confidence and strength. Hope, joie de vivre and compassion combine to create the ability to find happiness even in the face of resistance, hardship and despair. The yellow lotus is associated with spiritual enlightenment, knowledge and wisdom. It conveys the ability to see beyond the obstacles of the material world. The lotus with feminine energy. The easiest way to explain the difference between the yellow and the red lotus is as follows. Both allow you to find inner peace, but the yellow lotus is more effective when you are overwhelmed by thoughts. The red lotus when you are overwhelmed by feelings. And as both go hand in hand and reinforce each other, you certainly can't go wrong if you combine them. In many cultures and religions, the red lotus is seen as a symbol of love, compassion, passion and spiritual awakening. In some Buddhist traditions, the red lotus also stands for heart energy, while in Hindu traditions its connection to prosperity and abundance is emphasized. Hindus associate the red lotus with the goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity and beauty. Egyptian mythology associates it with the sun god Ra. It was believed to have emerged from the primordial waters of creation and to symbolize rebirth and reincarnation, which is why it was used in funeral rites as a symbol of resurrection and eternal life. This plant also has a good reputation as a medicinal plant. It contains alkaloids, flavonoids and antioxidants, which is why it is attracting increasing interest in naturopathy. The only red lotus essence I know of, apart from my own, is produced by Ian White of Bush Essences in Australia. He's keen to emphasize that this plant is the same one that is known as the sacred lotus in the Buddhist tradition. Lotus flowers symbolize unity with everything, which is why they can be combined with all other flower essences, including, of course, with other members of their own species. They harmonize every mixture, even those that seem contradictory at first glance, such as the submissive tyrant who harbors such contradictory feelings and attitudes. They all have the goal of helping humans on their spiritual path. They do this in slightly different ways, but they are united in the goal of inner stillness and peace, communion and cooperation with all living things, compassion and love. Practitioners of meditation, regardless of the form of meditation, find inner peace with the help of the lotus. The specialty of the red lotus is that it calms distracting emotions. It's not just circular thoughts that distract you. Emotions can also lead you astray. Suddenly, you start to get angry because you're thinking again instead of meditating, because your back hurts or for whatever reason. However, your back doesn't hurt any less when you get angry about it. Some people get upset because their development is not going fast enough and the hope for depth of meditation is missed. If someone succeeds in feeling and recognizing their anger and then letting it go, they do not need the help of the red lotus. Neither feelings nor thoughts can be prevented, but you can learn to deal with them well. Red lotus brings you back into your own heart, allowing compassion and forbearance to develop. Unity with oneself is a great art. Who doesn't have one thing or another to criticize about themselves, be it a big nose or a lack of talent for maths or singing or whatever? Have you ever fallen in love with someone who was bad at maths? Well, there you go. Why not with yourself? All lotus flowers close their blossoms at night. Light plays a crucial role in regulating the opening and closing of the flowers. When daylight fades and darkness sets in, the absence of light triggers physiological changes within the lotus flowers that lead to the closure of their petals. This has a special significance for one of them, whose color is that of the night. No, not black, but dark blue. The blue lotus improves intuition and opens the brow chakra, which is associated with the third eye. This promotes insight during meditation, but also during sleep, and especially in dreams. If you manage to temporarily ignore the distractions of the conscious mind and direct your attention inwards, it is easier to become receptive to the messages of the unconscious. In any case, the behavior of the flowers symbolically and literally stands for the day-night rhythm. The blue lotus is actually a water lily, just like its white-flowered sister, which can be found even here in the Netherlands. Both the lotus, which is native to Asia, and the other lotus and water lily species belong to the Nymphaceae family. The Nymphaea species can also be found in Europe, Australia and Africa. It is said to increase vitality and improve health. The growth and flowering behavior of lotus flowers is deeply intertwined with cultural symbolism and spiritual meaning in various societies. In many Eastern cultures, the lotus is associated with purity and enlightenment. The daily cycle of blooming and closing reflects themes of renewal and transformation, making the lotus a revered symbol in art, literature, and religious practices. Its rich historical significance is particularly evident in ancient Egyptian culture. Lotus was associated with the sun god Ra and was frequently depicted in ancient Egyptian art and architecture. The flower was recognized as symbolizing creation, rebirth, and the cycle of life. It was also believed to have aphrodisiac properties and was used in various rituals and ceremonies. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the blue lotus also has spiritual significance. Purity, enlightenment, and the awakening of spiritual consciousness are apparently associated with it wherever it is encountered. The flower is considered sacred and is used in religious practices and offerings. The blue lotus flower is also known for its therapeutic properties. In traditional medical systems such as Ayurveda, it is used to relieve stress, anxiety, and insomnia. The flower is said to have a calming effect on the nervous system, which is why many use it to promote relaxation and mental well-being. Beyond that, the blue lotus has antioxidant, anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties, which, in addition to its traditional uses, can also be helpful in a more modern sense for many conditions. In modern times, blue lotus continued to be valued for its spiritual and therapeutic uses. It is often incorporated into meditation practices, aromatherapy, and holistic healing approaches. Its essential oil, not to go unmentioned, is part of the Mamboya lotus spray formulation. The essences it contains are those of blue, pink and white lotus, as well as lotus seed and white water lily. In addition, research into bioactive compounds present in blue lotus promises potential modern applications in the pharmacological and wellness industry. Scientific interest in natural remedies is growing, and the therapeutic potential of blue lotus continues to be investigated. To summarize, blue lotus has a calming yet uplifting effect. It increases vitality, can be easily adapted to your own biorhythm, helps you fall asleep as well as dream, and makes the insights gained there accessible when you awake. You learn what intuition actually means, the perception of what is, only that you gain unhindered access to it with the help of this essence. Almost as a side effect, one can also mention the increased compassion for others and oneself, as well as devotion and service to all life. It couldn't be closer to my home. The white water lily grows in a small pond right in the center of the village, less than 100 meters from my house. Its essence stands for peace, tranquility and love. Does that sound a little familiar? However, the pitfalls of love are everywhere. At the happiest moment of the wedding feast, the police summoned by the neighbor turn up. The cuddliest baby turns into a monster as it struggles through puberty. The loved one dives under the covers with someone else. Love your neighbor? The one who's sticking a knife in my back? Loving someone with a knife in your back is probably as difficult as loving someone with nails through your hands and feet. What better reason could there be to give in to your inner rage? Losing control means reacting to what has happened instead of initiating and shaping what has not yet happened. The focus is directed backward, not forward. That's why you don't recognize the opportunities that are available now and in the future. You only feel the pain and anger and react. This blind, purely emotion-driven reaction is called reactive, and we all know it. You do or say something that you later regret, and you don't realize that you could invite the neighbor to the wedding. Prepare the baby for the fact that rough times will come when it reaches the age of 10, instead of just waiting for them to overwhelm them. And you can keep the relationship on track and solve problems as they arise rather than ignoring them and hoping they work themselves out. To do this, however, you have to be consciously present in the moment, and that takes practice and perseverance. The easiest way to do this is to start practicing when there are no clouds in the sky to dampen your mood. In the midst of stress, this is much more difficult, but help is available. With the white water lily, you are signaling to your body and soul that you want to focus on love from now on. Love for yourself even if you mess up. Love for others even if they are annoying. Simply a signal to yourself. You can do it differently. You can do it. Just remember it as often as you can so that it becomes the essence of yourself. This builds a foundation within that makes love possible. If we have missed practicing it, there is help from the white water lily. It serves in times when we have lost access to serenity after long dark days full of stress, when hope is disappointed time and time again, when we argue and hate each other and have forgotten that difficult times are easier to bear together than against each other. White water lily brings peace, tranquility and love. It releases you from ingrained reactive patterns and allows you to look at things with your heart. When the ego is wounded, frustration, anger and rage are natural reactions that take on a life of their own if you allow them to, and then appear when it doesn't fit at all. The soul can heal if you remember its inherent love, because love is the soul's self-healing power. Remembering this is a task made easier by the white water lily. In some Native American cultures, it is used in ceremonies to ask for spiritual guidance and healing. The flower is believed to have properties that help purify the body, mind and spirit. It is also often used as an offering in sacred rituals to honor ancestors or to ask for blessings from higher powers.